Okay, everybody, welcome to my channel and my show here. This week, I am very excited to have Marc Headley finally on my channel. I've been wanting to ask him on air a lot of things. And of course, he's got some of the most amazing inside stories on things. And he's always entertaining to talk to and listen to. So, Marc, welcome to my channel.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. So first off, for anybody out there who actually hasn't read Blown for Good or doesn't know who you are, hasn't watched Leah's show, has been living under a rock as far as Scientology is concerned, what's your basic background with Scientology?
I worked at the international headquarters from 1990 to 2005. I spent a large majority of that time working on films, videos, audio cassettes, CDs, DVDs, basically any of the propaganda pieces that were manufactured by Scientology. I spent a large majority of my time working on the production or manufacturing of those items. And I escaped with the help of police in January of 2005. And then I helped my wife escape a few weeks later, and been telling my story and speaking out against the abuses that Scientology perpetrates on a pretty much full-time basis since 2005.
Excellent. Okay, good. Now, were you raised in Scientology? Are you a second gen?
My mother got into Scientology when I was about 6 or 7. So I basically grew up. I grew up across this. My mom lived across the street from the complex in Hollywood, that big, large blue building in Scientology facility and off the Sunset. And my dad, who ironically wasn't in Scientology, lived across the street from the Celebrity Center. So I pretty much grew up either at the Manor, or the Celebrity Center, or the complex. My dad wasn't in Scientology, but he needed a cheap apartment, and so he lived across the street from the Celebrity Center at an apartment called the Shangri Lodge. And my mom was living in Hollywood. When she lived in Hollywood, she lived across the street from the complex. I went to Scientology schools. I went to Apple School before the people that ran it were declared suppressive. And then I had to go to another Scientology school. I went to Delphi in Los Angeles, which is most definitely a Scientology school. And that kind of groomed me to be recruited for the Sea Organization when I was 16. And that's when I joined. I worked in Los Angeles at ABLE International, which is the Association for Better Living and Education, which is the Sea Org management organization that runs all of their social betterment corporations, which are the front groups for Scientology: Applied Scholastics, Narconon, The Way to Happiness, and Criminon. And I was there for, I don't even think I was there a year, and then I got recruited or got promoted, so to speak, to go to the international. And that was in 1990. And then I worked there for 15 years.
Okay, 15 years up at the INT base. And that, of course, is the place out in San Jacinto that's directly under or closest in proximity to David Miscavige and the top of the pyramid of Scientology.
Yeah. Now, I have to make this point because people in San Jacinto don't like you to say that Golden Era Productions is in San Jacinto, and the people in Hemet don't like you to say that it's in Hemet. It's actually right on the border of pretty much both of them, and it's in a town. It's in its own town called Gilman Hot Springs. So that is actually where the INT base is located. And I don't want to offend any San Jacinto or Hemet people by saying that the Scientology headquarters is in their town. It's right next to it.
Okay. I'm actually glad you mentioned that because this has been a struggle for me because I've actually gotten feedback from people. It's not in Hemet. And then I went, okay, I'll say San Jacinto. And then, and then Riverside. But Riverside is huge. How do you talk, so yeah, it's more like the county.
It's in Riverside County. And the sheriffs that rescued me and actually escorted me to safety the day I escaped were Riverside Sheriff's deputies. because that's where we were. But but yeah, it's Riverside County, but officially it is I think it's 92569 925. I think the zip code is 92569. It's Gilman Hot Springs, California, and it's located on Highway 79, California Highway 79, or Gilman Springs Road is the actual road, a highway that goes right through the center of the property. The property is split by actual highway, and they dug tunnels under that highway so people could go back and forth. I talk about that. I'll talk about the entire evolution of how they used to have gates on the highway. So if you wanted to go from the north side of the property to the south side, you'd have to go through these pedestrian gates, and you'd have to run across the highway. It was kind of like Frogger. You'd have to dodge the cars to get across the highway. And but at meal times, you'd have 300-400 people from one side of the property going to the other side of the property to eat. And then after everyone had eaten, they would go back. And it was a safety issue because you'd have all these people flooding across this highway. There were no stop signs. It was just, hey, there's a whole bunch of people running across the highway. And also there were 6 of these pedestrian gates that led from different sides of the property to the other. And you could just walk out of them. There was no way to lock them because people had to come in and out all the time. So if you needed to go across the property, you just push in the code and you'd walk out or you'd walk in. And they lost a lot of people leaked through those gates into the free world. So, and eventually they would build 2 tunnels, one near the RTC buildings, and then one near the center of the property. And that's how we all went back and forth from the property. And so people that were restricted to the base, if they needed to go to the other side of the property, they just went through the tunnel. They couldn't, make a break for it on the highway or anything like that. But yeah, pretty crazy place.
Interesting. Very interesting. When you got there, late 90s, is that what you said? Or early?
1990.
Yeah, 1990.
1990. I got there in, I want to say it was May. It was right after my birthday, and my birthday's in May. So yeah, I think it was in the late May. Yeah, maybe late May is when I showed up there.
All right. And about how many people were there in terms of working staff?
I think it was nearly, I think it was 800, 900 people. It was a lot of people, maybe even almost 1,000 people that were there at the property. And it's actually kind of funny because the base is a good barometer of how many people are in Scientology, because in the late 80s, early 90s, there's probably several hundred, 800, 900, maybe 1,000 people there at the property. And a lot of people say that there was about maybe 100,000 active Scientologists that were participating in Scientology at that time. And now, from what I've heard and from people who've escaped the property more recently, there's about 200-300 people there at the international headquarters. And there's about 20,000 active, maybe 10-20,000 active Scientologists in the world. So I think it's a good barometer of, how active it is. And also, just to show you, these people that are at the end base, they're the most, per Scientology standards, they're the most qualified, most dedicated, longest in, dedicated Scientologists, and Sea Org members. So that's your highest level of dedicated Scientologist as a Sea Org member. And they sign a $1 billion contract. And so of 1,000 of those guys, 700 decided, I don't think so. So that's saying something. These are the guys that are hardcore, and they're like, no, I'm tapping out.
Yeah, that actually really is. That's a very good statement. I was going to go in that direction, so it was perfect. God, 200 or 300. That property is so big. Only having, it must be like, they must be swimming there. It must just be like, empty rooms, and there's the. Okay, so
that's funny you say that, because for the entire 15 years that I was there, they were building what were called the birthing buildings. It was the staff housing that was going to be located on the property. For most of the entire 16 years that I lived there, staff at the base either lived on the property, there was some housing on the property, they lived directly next to the property. Scientology bought every single possible house that was located adjacent to the property. There's a golf course that the Scientology owns, and there's a road called Sublet Road that leads all the way along the golf course. And there was probably about 20 or 30 houses along that road. And systematically, Scientology bought every single one of those. And that's where a lot of people lived. But other than that, they lived in apartment complexes in San Jacinto and in Hemet. And over the years, they kind of phased them over to living on the property. And the birthing buildings were never completed while I was there.
All the way up until 2005.
It took more than 15 years for them to complete their own staff buildings there at the property. I mean, they built the Empire State Building in 2 years during the Depression. Right. It took Scientology 15 years to build some apartments on their own property, no less, with their own workforce. But they built them at the time when they were designed. It was like, well, we need to build enough so that when the entire base has all of the posts filled. So they built 4 buildings that would hold 400 people each.
Okay.
So now those buildings are done. They have completed them. And they have 200, 300 people living there. So there's a lot of empty rooms in those apartments.
It all by itself, that must be causing some cognitive dissonance in some of the people who are still there.
You got to think so. Well, when I was there, we had all these, and I talk a lot about this in my book, but we had all these different drills because the Sea Organization was originally at sea. Was when Hubbard was evading, he was evading his captors, whatever various country governments were after him or tax authorities. The one place he could find that was sort of a safe haven was the ocean. So that's where he started the Sea Organization, and I think it was 1965. And
67.
67, there you go. So they have all these drills that you would have on a ship, fire drill, man overboard drill, all these different drills. Well, those all carried over to land because Hubbard wrote all these policies for the Sea Org. It didn't matter where we were. It didn't matter that we weren't at sea anymore. We still had to do all this stuff as if we were. So one of the things is we had all these drills. We had a fire drill. We had an earthquake drill, being in California. We had a flood drill. We had a blow drill so that if somebody escaped, there was a bunch of people that were put into action to track that person down. And we had a security drill. So if the power went out, we also had a power drill. So if the power went out, that means the security force would lose all their perimeter cameras and so on. And so the male staff members at the base would form a physical perimeter all the way around the property. So you'd have to be able to at least see a guy 100 yards away and then him, so on, all the way around the entire property to form a human perimeter. But whenever any one of these things would happen, we'd have one of these drills. So, but out of the fire and the flood and the security and the power, the drill that happened the most was the blow drill. You could be a fire drill maybe once every 5 months or a power drill every 2 months, but we had a blow drill just about every week or every other week.
Wow.
So, and that really makes sense. If you go from 1,000 people to 300 people, you got 700 people. You got to, onesie here, twosie there. Maybe you don't have any for a month or two, then you have 5 that month. So there's a lot of people getting the hell out of there. And to be fair, it was a few times where Miscavige just lost it. Something happened and there was a flap, or I think one time after the New Year's 2000 event, the event went off horribly. It was a disaster. And he sent busloads of people off the property. Like we showed up for morning muster and they were like, hey, where is everybody? It was like, oh yeah, we unloaded 2 bus loads of people last night during the night. They got on the bus, packed up their shit, and like even their spouses hadn't even been told that some of those people had left.
Holy shit.
So,
I remember a bunch of people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all these people showing up to pack.
Yeah, if you were in Los Angeles, you'd be like, wow, that's a lot of people. And that's another, that it should be fair, that it's also another thing is some of those 700 people were demoted or what they consider offloaded. So even if you're offloaded from the base, you could still be in another Sea Org installation. But that was a very small percentage. I mean, maybe I'd say of those 700, maybe 50 ended up in PAC total, or they went to PAC and then they got offloaded or went to the RPF and then routed out or escaped from PAC. It's a lot easier to escape from PAC because they don't have barbed wire around the buildings in Los Angeles. You can pretty much walk anywhere you want for the most part.
Yeah, exactly. It was actually quite something to show up to muster. At your place, there's all these people missing. At my place, suddenly the estates division, which is the guys who do all the grounds work, or, you know, the galley, the guys making the food or washing the dishes, suddenly that division was packed with all these people. And we're like, Who the fuck are all these people and where'd they come from? Oh, they came from what? They came from the base? And you couldn't know anything about them. You couldn't know why they were there. You couldn't ask them any questions. And you dare not, like we were told, the HCO, the personnel people were told they are only to work in estates or they are only to work in, you know, the galley. And these are people who were, in Scientology terms, highly qualified. These were trained auditors. These were trained administrators. These were people who had, a couple of them had been in Scientology so long, they had directly worked and been trained by L. Ron Hubbard. And
I remember,
you know,
when we had, there was a gentleman that worked at the Int base. His name was Ken Mortensen.
Yeah.
Ken Mortensen was WDC Gold. So he was the watchdog committee member for all of dissemination and all of the products, all the propaganda pieces that were produced for Scientology. But he was one of the top people in all of Scientology. The guy had been in Scientology, I'm pretty sure, his entire life. He'd been at the base probably a decade before I got there, and maybe even the Sea Org even longer than that. But he was he had bars. He was a decorated Sea Org member. And he was made a folder page at the advanced organization in Los Angeles. So here's a guy who's been in Scientology and in the Sea Org his entire life. He was running thousands, if not hundreds of people and what they did. And when he left the Int base, his job was to go get a folder from somewhere and bring it to somewhere. That's it. Like carry a file folder with paper in it. That was the extent of his duties. So, and we heard about these guys. There was another guy. He was an amazing musician. He was one of the best musicians that I had ever known personally. He was also an amazing audio technician, and he set up all of the events, the audio for all of the Scientology events for the entire time I knew him, which was at least 15 years. And he was made the canteen IC. His name was Charlie Rush. Mm-hmm. He got in trouble at, I'm pretty sure the event that he got busted at was a Free Winds event in the Caribbean on the cruise ship, the Free Winds. And he got busted from that event. He did something David Miscavige didn't like, and he was made the canteen IC in Los Angeles. The canteen, that's right. He was selling cigarettes and candy. That's what this guy, just a few years prior to this, was in a High Winds magazine, which is the Sea Org magazine that comes out once a year, as a 25-year veteran of the Sea Organization. He was in the Sea Org when L. Ron Hubbard was running the Sea Org in the 1960s. He was one of the musicians that was playing with L. Ron Hubbard when they had this band called the Apollo Stars. Right. We went to these different islands and they played they played music on the islands as a way to kind of safe point the island so that they didn't freak out that Scientology was here. But I mean, that's how long this guy had been. He had dedicated his entire life to the Sea organization. And when David Miscavige got pissed off at him, he went from setting up international events and doing all the audio and playing music to selling cigarettes and candy. And just like, and that's the way it is in the Sea Org. As soon as Dave Miscavige is done with you, you just get thrown out like the trash. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, experience, whichever way the wind's blowing could depend on what Miscavige does with you that day. And so we saw a lot of that at the base, where people who were decorated executives were just like, no, I'm done. Get out of here. Just send them to Los Angeles, throw them away. We don't want them anymore. And a lot of these guys, Ken Mortensen, his wife was at the property. She stayed. Charlie Rush, pretty sure his wife, I can't remember. He was married a few times, so I can't remember which wives.
He didn't come to LA with a wife, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I can't remember if he was married when he finally ended up leaving, because I think he was married at least 2 or 3 times. He was actually Linda Rush. I think he was even married to, I want to say he might have been married to Annie Tidman before she was married to Pat Broker.
Wow.
Somebody else will have to verify that. Somebody who knows, because that was before my time.
Okay.
But that was before I got to the base. He was already married to a girl named Linda when I got there, but she escaped in the early 90s. But either way, yeah, it didn't matter if the spouses were there. If you got offloaded from the base, then that was it. You most likely you knew you were never going to see your spouse ever again. You have to get divorced and go marry somebody in PAC. So
yeah, but, and that happened many times. Because I was at the PAC. I'm at the PAC end seeing all this. Ken Morton, just by the way, what you just said about Ken Mortensen is the first time I ever knew that, and I was the guy who was the management guy over the folder guys and the auditing guys and the training guys. I mean, it was so tightly sealed, their history, and they wouldn't say anything. So if you didn't already know who they were, and I was just some guy, I didn't know anything about all this past. I had no idea Ken Mortensen was a WDC. I mean, this is a high level position in the church.
Well, not only that, but I think before he was WDC, he was a post called, they have an area at the base called RAV, which is LRH Audio Visual. So Ron AV, RAV. And the RAV area, it's part of CMO, and they're the ones that take care of all L. Ron Hubbard's personal audio equipment. So all of his high-end tape recorders and players and anything that has to do with AV, the audio visual systems in his mansion at the base that they built 20-some years after he died, that is all taken care of by them. And they have maybe 10 or 15 people that are in RAV. There's mixers in RAV. So if there's an L. Ron Hubbard property, like an AV property that has to do with LRH specifically, then they would mix that, not Gold. And RAV was the quality control over Gold. So when Gold produced something and it had to be checked, before it would go to COB, it would go to RAV first, and RAV would check it. And the person that was over RAV was called RAV, R-A-V. That was the boss of RAV was called RAV. And Ken Mortensen was RAV for a while as well, which is, wow. It's high at the base. It's a very high post because it's basically over all of the things that get produced by Gold are checked by RAV before they go to David Miscavige. So that's still a big post. I'd say it's comparable to WC. It's another one of those posts where you don't last long. That's how you know what the hot, high posts are at the end base. They're the ones that have a new person on it every few months, because Dave will inevitably just get pissed at you, and then you go to the RPF, or you blow, or you become a dishwasher for 5 years, or, because you did something Dave didn't like.
Jesus Christ, man. Okay. And I think anybody who's watching it's pretty apparent that the initials of the acronyms, all the wording and stuff, I mean, there's just tons of this stuff. And anybody who's not keeping up, don't even worry about it because,
yeah. I was thinking of actually putting the glossary of my book on my website because I have an entire glossary of all of the abbreviations, all of the definitions. I have a map of the int base. They're all in the book, but I'm having my audiobook is right now, it's with Amazon for approval. And when I was reading it, I thought, ugh, I don't know how these people, because I can't, when one of the guidelines on Amazon is that you can't say anything that's not in the book. So I can't change the abbreviations to the full words, or I can't change the text of the book to kind of help that there's no glossary. And I can't be reading, you can't do footnotes at the bottom of the pages. You can't do any of that. So I thought, I don't know how people are going to listen to this and not get a little lost. And I even talk about that in the front of the book. Like I have this sentence where it's like, hey, I told the supercargo I was going over to PAC to get the TMP list from ASHO so I could send out the BMO for this week's stat evolution. And the whole sentence probably has about 500 words, but now that they're abbreviated, it's like 100. And it's just so, and it is, and you get used to it when you're there. You don't even think about it. And it's also, I tell you, it's also how they smoke out people who are fakers. Because when you start with all that lingo and someone's like trying to infiltrate or trying to pretend they're a Scientologist, you can tell right away that they're totally lost. And they're like, they have no idea what you're talking about.
Exactly. I should do this now. I sort of made some assumptions at the beginning that, that a lot of viewers are going to know who you are and that you've written this book, but I actually want to plug this. Marc Headley has written a book called Blown for Good. And it is about his experience in Scientology and his escape from it ultimately, and him and his wife. It's an amazing read. It's a very fast read, and it is extremely informative. So I definitely recommend you check it out. And as he just mentioned, he's now doing an audiobook version of that. So that'll be out very, very shortly. And I actually did the exact same thing you just mentioned. I put the two appendices from my book on my website. And I think one of those is a glossary, and the other one, because you can't do a Scientology book without a glossary. You just can't,
Yeah, it's too, well, it's also because we've been kind of ingrained in this idea that if you go past a word that you don't understand,
right,
then you won't keep reading, or you'll fall asleep, or you'll get bored, or, you'll have these manifestations of having a misunderstood word. And, so I think when I first was out and I first did the book, I did the book in 2009. So it's almost been a decade since the book came out. And when the book came out, to be fair, there wasn't any other Scientology books out from people that were in Scientology. There were other books from, I think, a few decades earlier from some people that were in Scientology and left, like John A. Tack. And there was another guy, Madman or Messiah. That book by, I think it's Bent Corden?
Yep, Bent Corden, yep.
Yeah. So there wasn't any recent books about Scientology, and certainly not from people that were in the Sea organization. And I got to give a plug to Karen Schless here, because Karen Presley, she wrote a book. She was at the Int Base as well, and she blew many years before I did. And she wrote a book, and Scientology threatened to sue the publisher. And even though the book was written, and even though I think Karen had even been paid some amount of money for the manuscript or for what she had written, the book was never published. The publisher was told, we're going to sue you. Scientology is going to spend millions and millions of dollars suing you, and you're going to spend millions and millions of dollars defending yourself, or you can just not release the book and we don't have to worry about any of that. So the publisher was like, no brainer. That book's never going to see the light of day. So even though she got paid, she basically sold the manuscript to the publisher. So it never saw the light of day. And I heard that story. So I started my own publishing company, and that's how I published the book. This is also before, now you can Amazon, you can do, print to order, you can do all kinds of things. Well, this was a decade ago. It wasn't that high tech printing industry. So I just started a publish company and printed the book, hardback and paperback. And I was like, yeah, I'm already, and at the time I did have a lawsuit against Scientology. So they're not suing me. I'm suing them right now. And what are they going to do? And ultimately, ironically, they ended up using my book. They ended up entering my book as evidence in their defense of the lawsuit that I had against them. So not only did they not come after me, not only did they did say, oh, this is not true and that's not true. But in the end, they did exhibit the entire book as a fact in their case. So, and there was another thing where I'd written a lot of the things that I put in the book. I wrote on websites. There was a bunch of websites in the early 2000s. There was an ex-Scientology message board, and there was a website called inturbulation.org, which was sort of made by a lot of members of Anonymous and that sort of like group, and ex-Scientologists, I think, and critics. And I think it became Why We Protest. That was the name of the website. And I posted a lot of these stories on that website, and Scientology said, oh, this musical chairs thing never happened. Oh, David Miscavige never threw anyone in a swimming pool. Oh, we didn't do this. Oh, we didn't do that. Oh, nobody got beat up at the Ent base. And they had basically refuted every single one of these things. And they had packs that they were giving out to people that were leaving Scientology or thinking about leaving Scientology. And they'd hear about these stories on the internet. And so they had all these packs printed up saying, oh, these weren't true and that wasn't true, and basically refuting everything. And eventually, I think it was in 2009. In 2009, the St. Pete Times did an entire series of articles on Scientology called The Truth Rundown, which is kind of funny because if you're in Scientology, the Truth Rundown is basically taking away any false information you have and giving you the true information of what those things are. And that whole process is called The Truth Rundown of Scientology. So that's kind of what the St. Pete Times did. They said, here's all the bullshit that Scientology is telling you. Here's actually what's happening. But they did a whole series of articles. And in those articles, not only did Scientology admit to those things that happened, they did say David Miscavige did play a game of sadistic musical chairs with all of the Scientology executives, which my book is the first place. My writings were the first place that story ever was taken place. Now it was in the Truth Rundown. It was in the Going Clear film. It's been retold in many different places. But they did say that he did throw people in the swimming pool. They did say there was a culture of violence. They admitted it on Anderson Cooper. They admitted it on St. Pete Times. They admitted it. So Scientology, they are really good at telling secrets or keeping secrets. They're good at having secrets. They're not good at keeping them.
Right.
They eventually run out of lies. They end up having to tell lies to cover up their other lies, and ended up telling truths to make the lies they told before acceptable. It's just too many to keep track of. And in the end, there's so many people. There's more ex-Scientologists than there are Scientologists. So inevitably, there's going to be more stories about all this stuff than the Scientology can keep up with and keep track of and say they didn't happen when they've already admitted that it did happen. So come on.
Exactly. You got to the base in 2000. I'm going to go back a little bit and then I want to cover some things. So much to cover.
1990.
1990. What am I saying? Yeah, 1990. So how long until you met David Miscavige personally? What was your initial impression?
Yeah, I met him before I went to the base.
Oh, before you got there. Okay.
I talk about that in the book because I was with one of my friends, and my friend that I grew up with in Los Angeles, he joined the Sea Org in Clearwater. And then he came to LA to get his security clearances to be able to get promoted to the Ent base. And we were just walking down Hollywood Boulevard one day after getting some food. And then he started talking to this short South Pole elf dude. And I was like, what's up with that dude? And then so he was done. I kind of just hung back, and he was talking to this dude, and he had some executives, and they all had bars. I was like, whoa, Jesus. And I'd never seen or heard of these guys before. And so then we started walking back into the building. I'm like, so who was that? And he literally looked at me like, are you kidding me right now? And I was like, what? I don't know. Who's that dude? He's like, that was David Miscavige, chairman of the board, RTC. And I was like, okay, like, so who's that? Like I still hadn't even registered on who this dude was. And when I was a kid, we went to Scientology events. So like we went to the Palladium when David Miscavige announced that L. Ron Hubbard died.
Oh, you were there?
I was there, but I was like 10, 20, no, what, 86? I was 13. I was running around the lobby, you know.
Right.
I wasn't in there listening to them talking about some old fogey who died. No, I was running around the lobby, like messing around, playing, you know, hide and go seek or tag or whatever you do when you're 12, 13 years old. Anyway, so I did totally no clue who David Miscavige was. When I got to the property, I found out in about 5 seconds that you don't fuck with David Miscavige, okay? There were stories of people, and these are in the book too, but there's stories of people who got to the base, and like there was one guy, they spent months getting this guy through his security clearances, because you have to get security checking, interrogated on the e-meter about your crimes and your past and what are you doing in Scientology, all this stuff. And if you have any evil intentions towards David Miscavige, you have to get through all that in order to be able to get approval to then come to the property. And some people could take years, months or years to get their approval to be able to be promoted to the base. And so they had this guy that took months. He was a musician. He had taken months to get to the base. And then when he got there, he walked into the music studio, and Dave Miscavige was in the music studio, and he did one of these like slapping and grabbing and, you know, like super fragilistic handshake. It's like, yo, man, what's up? And then the dude was like, he'd been at the base for like 45 minutes. He was back in LA 2 hours later.
Oh, man.
Gone. And then there was another story. This is a good one. I don't think this one's in the book, but there was a story about this guy. He was a security guard, and he'd been at the base for a while. And he was up in Studio 2, which is one of the mixing studios where they do all the post lip sync. They do all the sound effects and all the dubbing for the films. And he was up in the studio, and the phone rang, and he answered the phone, and he goes, "Who's this?" And the person on the phone goes, "Who's this?" And the security guard goes, "This is the baddest motherfucker on the base." And the guy on the other line goes, "You must be mistaken, because I'm the baddest motherfucker on the base." It was David Miscavige on the other end of the phone. That guy, out of there.
Oh my God. So,
anyway, so that's another thing. So these are the stories you get told these stories as soon as you got there. Like, don't fuck around. This is a serious fucking dude. If you have a bad phone call, you will be gone. If you have a bad handshake, you will be gone. When you say yes sir, no sir, 2 bags full, 3 bags full, sir, don't fuck around with David Miscavige. This is hardcore stuff, and he is not in a mood. He's not in the mood for nonsense. So yeah, lots of fun with David Miscavige.
Jesus
Christ. And you would hear about, I mean, those were the funny stories that you hear, but there's also some really horrible stories too. So when I first got there, I think he at the time in the early 90s was kind of not so bad. It was bad, but it was like tolerable bad. Like it was long hours and all-nighters and, you know, lots of punishment and lower conditions. But we had a day off for Christmas.
Okay.
We had a 45-minute meal for Thanksgiving.
Right.
It was like in the later years, we didn't even get a day off for Christmas. We worked Christmas Day. We had a 30-minute meal for Thanksgiving. We got 2 hours to go Christmas shopping at Walmart.
Right.
I mean, it got like, and
that's how it was.
Dave called it Heat City. That's what he called it. He said, I don't know where you came from, but it's Heat City here. This is where you're in the fire now. Like, we don't mess around here. It's this is, where he talks, L. Ron Hubbard, and there's this policy letter that every Scientologist reads on any course they do. It's at the very beginning of every course, called Keeping Scientology Working. He says, this is a deadly serious activity. Only the tigers survive. And even they have a hard time of it, we'd rather have you dead than incapable. That's like the mantra of the int base. We'd rather have you dead than incapable. It's hardcore. It's hardcore. Like, there's nothing I could do in life that would be half as hard as that place was. Not even a quarter. I mean,
right.
You get pushed to the limit of whatever limit you think you have, you get pushed way past that, and then you get pushed some more.
Yep. That's actually a really good descriptor for the Sea Org in many ways, actually, because it wasn't like it was a whole lot different down in LA, especially on the RPF, I'll say. I mean, the day-to-day in the Sea Org wasn't like, intolerable. It was long hours. It was, I was up for a week one time. I mean, that really sucked. And I mean a week straight. I mean, there was like, maybe 3 or 4 hours of sleep. I mean, it wasn't like, it was a week. That's
good that you say that.
Yeah.
It's good that you say that, because Dave would say at the base, oh, don't think you're going to get off easy and end up in the RPF. That's how the base was. The RPF was a vacation.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it certainly wasn't any vacation for me, but I totally get the attitude. And that actually does establish a baseline for me on life at the base. Because there is nothing I've ever experienced that was anything even close to the RPF. So yeah, to live that and that was 3 years of my life. I mean, you were up there for 15. So, okay. So let's just talk about a couple of things there, because it's such a long ranging, there's so much going on up there and there's so much experience there. I wanted to ask you if you could talk about, you totally talk about it in the book, but it's other than your book, I've never seen anyone anywhere mention anything about it. The cards.
Oh, team share.
Yes.
Okay. So at the base, well, first of all, anything that we did at the base, most of those things were based off of L. Ron Hubbard advices. So after he went into, I guess you could just say, hiding or seclusion once he came back from the ocean and he went hunt to land, he lived in different places all over the United States, and he actually even lived in Hemet for a while. He lived in an apartment or some sort of house in Hemet. And whatever he wrote, because he wasn't supposed to be managing or profiting from Scientology, and that's the reason they lost their tax exemption from the IRS early on, is because they saw like, hey, there's this one dude, Hubbard, and he's basically making a ton of money. So you ain't tax exempt because he's getting all the cash. So because he wasn't supposed to be managing Scientology, he wasn't supposed to be profiting from Scientology, he couldn't write any policy letters, because otherwise he'd be running Scientology. So they were basically where he was still running it and he was still telling everybody what to do. But anytime he wrote anything, it was called an advice.
Right.
So it wasn't policy, it was just advice. But the advices were treated even higher than policy. So his advice was in stone at the property. So anything that he wrote, that's basically how the property operated. And one of the things that he wrote was this thing called team share. And he said for Golden Era Productions, he said they should have these cards. And the cards were share in the team. And so we call it team share cards. and you had a card, and depending on if your statistics were up or your statistics were down, you would either gain a card or lose a card, respectively. So if you produced 20 widgets this week and you produced 22 widgets next week, then you'd get a card back. And if you produced 18 widgets this week, you'd lose a card. And the cards were, you had a social card. So that was the 5th card you could have. And that was like, you could go on Liberty. You could go to, if there was a Christmas party, you could go to a Christmas party. It was basically allowed you to do social things.
Okay.
So if you didn't have a social card, you couldn't have liberties.
Right.
If you didn't have a social card, you couldn't go to the Christmas party. If there was, it's funny because, well, I'll keep going. So then the next card you had was a bonus card. If you didn't have a bonus card and there was bonuses, then you couldn't get bonuses. So if there was a Christmas bonus, but you didn't have a bonus card, you wouldn't get the $35 Christmas bonus that year, which was the bonus the last year I was there in 2004.
$35?
$35 was the Christmas bonus.
Fuck me, man. I never had a Christmas bonus that low.
It's not even $1 a week for the whole year. $35. Wow. You could make more than that sitting on the side of the highway with a piece of cardboard.
Yeah.
Okay. The next card was I want to say the Chow card. No, the pay card.
Okay.
The next card, the third card was the pay card. So if you didn't have a pay card, you wouldn't get paid. That's a simple card. The next card was the Chow card. So that was the second card you were issued, was the Chow card. So if you didn't have a Chow card, no food. You'd have to eat beans and rice leftovers, or I think in the advice, he basically just says you just got to figure out how to get some food. But you can't sit in the dining room and eat food. You can eat out by the dumpsters, whatever leftovers you can scrap up. That's where you get to eat. That's the Chow card. And then the very last or first card you'd get was a birthing card. No birthing card, you can't sleep in your bed. You got to sleep. And if it says this in the advice, if you don't have a birthing card, then you might have to go sleep out on the golf course. And the property, there was a golf course right next to the property, and literally staff would go sleep on the golf course if they didn't have a birthing card. Okay, now here's so the cards, you'd lose the cards starting at the bonus or social, bonus, pay, Chow, birthing.
Yep.
Okay. So first of all, there was never any fucking parties and there was never any bonuses. So those first 2 cards were like buffer cards. And it got to be like you could basically mouth off to your senior and be like, hey, why don't you go screw yourself? And the senior could say, you lose a card.
Okay.
Right then.
Okay.
That's how the system worked. It was supposed to be administered by the MAAs, the Master at Arms, or the ethics division or department, but it really got to a point where it's just like, hey, you suck, give me 2 cards. Or, it was just like COB would come into an area and somebody would do something and he'd take all 5 cards in one sentence. You lost all your cards. You lose all your team share cards, or you lose 2 cards, or he'd issue something down to the base and say, everyone loses 2 cards. In the whole golden era, everyone in gold loses 2 cards for this flap that happened.
Jesus.
So if you were on your pay card, you now had no pay and no food. You were just down to a birthing card. And if you were one of these poor saps who just couldn't do anything right to get your stats up, and every week your stats went down, in 2 months you have no cards. You're done. And he also talks about if you went too long with no cards, then basically you just get offloaded. Like, you're no use to us. Get the fuck out of here.
Okay.
So I would say for the first 10 years I was at Gold, the team share system was alive and well. And you lived or died by those cards.
Yeah.
To a point where sometimes you'd have to present the card to eat. Like, you'd have to have the cards on you. which is another giant pain in the ass because when you're in the Sea Org, you don't really have any possessions. So keeping track of these stupid little credit cards, and they were like a credit card. They had your name stamped into them like an actual credit card. They were the size of a credit card. I wish I still had them, but they said Team Share and Golden Era Productions, and then it said pay. Team Share and Golden Era Productions, social. And it had your name stamped into it. And I think it was, it just had your name stamped into it, just like on a regular credit card. And you had to carry these things with you. So if there was a Christmas party, you'd show up and they'd be like, hey, where's your social card? And you'd be like, are you fucking kidding me? I don't know where those goddamn cards are. And some people would be like, I haven't had a social card in like 4 years. I don't know where the fuck that thing is. And so there was always this taking and getting back of cards. So if you got a card taken, you'd have to get it back. And if your senior took it and he lost it, then it was gone. If the MAA took it, he'd have to remember when to give it back to you. And it was all this paperwork and whether your stats were up, whether they were down, or they'd say, oh, your stats are down, give me a card. You'd be like, I don't have my card. I don't know where my cards are. So then you'd still have 5 cards, even though you really had no cards, just because you never had your cards when they needed to be taken away.
Right.
So it was basically 100% arbitrary. There was no, even though L. Ron Hubbard had said this is how it should be, it was perverted and distorted and it was abused. And that's the other thing that would come up is that every few years it'd be like, oh, there was a big investigation done into Golden Era and it appears that the team share system is being abused. And then it would be like, only an MA can take a card. Only an MA can give back a card. It's purely based on stats. You can't just say you lose a card. And then, of course, like 2 weeks later, COB, David Miscavige would say, you lose a card. Everybody would be like, what the fuck? I thought we weren't going to do that anymore.
Right.
But no one sent him the investigation.
Right.
It was only in Gold where we got let in on that. This has to be per L. Ron Hubbard. So eventually, I'd say by the late 1990s, it was basically like, and we had been, so many people had no pay cards or no birthing card for years. So it's basically like, oh, so you're really not gonna let me eat anymore. Like, come on, this is getting silly. Like, I don't give a shit about your team share system. Your team share system can go suck it. I don't care. I don't have those shares, but I'm fucking going to get some food.
Right.
So it basically just got to the point where they couldn't even enforce it because it was total anarchy at the base. And it was also, it was basically admitted and widely known that it was thoroughly abused. So everybody was like, I'm not going to do it anymore. I don't give a shit. You can say whatever you want to say. And we weren't getting bonuses. We weren't getting, paid for a lot of times, and we weren't getting bonuses or any parties or anything. So it was really the birthing card and the pay card, but you can't have a system where only 2 cards are worth anything.
Right.
When the other cards are just totally useless. So the whole thing basically was a total wipeout, which is another great testament to how brilliant L. Ron Hubbard was, because it was a giant piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly. The entire time that I was in the Sea Org, not once did any word of any of this card sharing system, team share system ever come down to PAC. No one ever talked about it.
Well, at the base, any issue that is issued at the base says confidential, base only, treason assignment. So we weren't even allowed to bring issues to our birthing. Like every once in a while, we had this thing called the OODs, the Orders of the Day, which is another thing that they used to do at the sea. They would issue this daily piece of paper that said all the stuff that was going on, what the schedule is, who's a scumbag today, who's not a scumbag today. It had all this listed out. I'm not joking.
Really I saw that. I know. We had that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, in the OODs, if you brought the OODs to your birthing, you get assigned treason.
Jesus.
Just for having a copy of the OODs at your, and it said eyes only, base confidential, So you wouldn't dare say something about the base. Like even when I was running the shoot crew where we shot all the films and we shot lots of videos for the events, we were down in LA. We stayed at the complex. We ate in the dining room. We were down there doing stuff. There was no chit chat. You don't chit chat with the locals down in PAC. Somebody starts getting chatty with you, you'd be like, dude, get the fuck out of here. Come on, man. I'm from Gold. I don't mess with no riffraff. Get the shit out of here.
There was definitely an attitude. I'll say that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. We were, but for our protection.
Right.
It was a defense mechanism. If you were in LA and I was chatting it up with you and you were in PAC and David Miscavige walked by, that's it. I'm toast.
Yep.
And he'd literally be like, the fuck are you doing talking to these PAC guys? Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, you're from Gold. You're from Int. You know, come on. And there's a definite us versus them that's ingrained into you at the base. And even at the base, if you were in Gold was the shit of the property. There was another 10 organizations on the base. You had Exec Strata, CMO Gold, CMO Int, WDC, RTC, the L. Ron Hubbard's compilations, Senior CS Int, LRH PPRO, the PR guys for the LRH. All these guys, Int Management PR. Gold was the bottom of the totem pole. So if you were in any one of those orgs and you screwed up, that you got posted in Gold.
Right.
If you were in RTC and Dave got pissed at you and you got booted out of RTC, you'd go into the grounds department Gold or made a dishwasher in Gold because there's no lower status-wise and there's no more humiliation than here's this guy. When an Int staff member got on the bus, we had to Gold. If you were Gold, you had to get up.
Oh.
Yeah, like
okay.
serious, like a serious class system. Like you are less than. Get the fuck up. I'm going to sit down. And even if you were like a shit person in Int, if you got on the bus, you're still better than the most hot shit dude in Gold. You're still better than him, and that guy's got to get up. You could be a swamper in Int, and you could be a commander in Gold. That commander had to get up and give his seat to the swamper from Int. That's how it was for years. And only until the 2000s did it totally reverse, where the Gold guys were basically told, you guys are the only ones doing anything. You're like actually making stuff. Like you're making videos, you're making CDs, you're making DVDs. These guys in Int, they don't do shit. They don't do expansion of Scientology. They don't manage people. They don't send dispatches. They don't do anything. They sit around all day and confess their crimes up in the hole or up in the trailers. They don't do anything. They're the shit. They're the scum of the earth. And so the Gold guys were walking around like, you'd see this guy that you had to get up on the bus. You'd be like, hey, motherfucker, go fucking clean my car. You know, like that was that kind of like, hey, you suck. And to the point where like when I first got to the base in 1990, I was like, if I saw Marc Yeager, who was the CMO Int, he'd be like, yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. Right away, sir. When I left in the 2000s, I was like, hey, Mark, did you approve my finance submission? What the hell, dude? Do you want me to tell COB that you're sitting on my submission? Come on, fucker. You got to approve this thing. Like it was complete opposite in the end because the Int guys had been Dave had talked so much shit about them for so long and told us that they're just scum. And we would get dispatches that we'd be CC'd on, and it would be addressed to Int base SPs.
Wow.
And that was Marc Yeager, Jenny Linson, Ray Midoff, Guillaume Lesevre. These guys, their title was Int base SPs, and they actually had suppressive person declares written on them that were posted on the notice boards.
No shit. They were actually posted. Yep. It wasn't just a verbal
declared
thing.
SPs. Yeah, they were declared SPs. And then they had an issue on the CMO Int notice board that said declared SP, and then they'd be at the event a week later talking about all the expansion in Scientology. They'd be at the Shrine Auditorium, and this year the stats are highest ever, even though total bullshit on the stats, total bullshit anything they're talking about. And when they get back to the base, they're digging ditches.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. That's the other thing that I wanted to make sure everybody knows.
Yeah.
That's the way everything in Scientology is. It's all movie magic. Nothing is what it seems. Nothing.
Right.
When you see something that Scientology is showing you, that's not what's really happening behind the scenes. If they show Mark Yeager up on the podium talking about expansion, in real life, he's in the aeration ponds at the property digging out dried excrement by hand with no mask, with no hazmat suit. He's digging in shit and making shit dust and breathing shit. That's what he was doing a week before he was on stage at the Shrine in a tuxedo, being the Mark Yeager International Management. So it's all movie magic, man. There ain't no reality involved in any of that stuff.
And you got to comment on the fact that what does this do to these people? What does this do to a person to be the shit one day and the scumbag the next? But this is going on and on and on. I mean, we're talking about long term.
2 decades.
Yeah.
2 decades of this nonsense going on. And that's what I think somebody asked me. I can't remember where it was. Somebody asked me, well, why do you leave? Or I really think there's 2 parts of it. I think it's the smart ones leave. I mean, the smarter you are, the more people, you have more chances of leaving, the smarter you are. But you also have to be willing to throw everything away, your whole life. You have to be willing to say, that's it. I'm going to start over. If I have to be a bum on the street, that's what I'm going to do. I'd rather be a bum on the street than live here. And it got to the point where I would rather be dead than be there. It was so miserable. And you could never win. You could never win. The rules would be established by Dave, and then you'd play by those rules, and then he'd change the rules. And he's always moving the goalpost. And he's always, you're just like, fuck this. And then when you kind of get the idea that there's no use anyway, like there's no expansion happening. The stats have been going down. All of Scientology stats are posted at the Ant base. All of them internationally. Long term. We're talking decades of stats. In 1996, all of the stats internationally crash and they never recover, ever. From 1996, I left in 2005. Those graphs were going all down since 1996. 1996 is when David Miscavige came out with the Golden Age of Tech.
Exactly.
And Scientologists worldwide said, I'm out. I'm tapping out. This is a bunch of nonsense. I already did all this. Now you want me to do it again? I don't think so. I'm done. This is a bunch of bull. And the best, there was somebody who told me it would be like this. It'd be like if you bought a brand new Subaru. And 2 years later, Subaru says, tell you what, that car, total piece of shit. You got to buy a new car. And we fixed all the problems we had on that old car. You need to just drive that Subaru right off a cliff and come in and buy a new Subaru. People would be like, are you kidding me? You made the car and you know it's bullshit and now you want me to buy a new one? No, I'm not buying any more of your cars. That's what Scientology did. That's what Scientology's been doing for decades. Say, oh, we made this course. You got to do it. It's going to change all of Scientology. You do the course, then 5 years later say, oh, remember that course? Oh, it was totally messed up. We didn't know. We didn't have the yellow rage. Somebody dropped some papers. Some semicolons flew in somewhere. Oh my God. You got to buy this new book. This new book, it's the real deal. Guess what? David Miscavige released that book and the version of the book before it and the new book that he's saying was not approved. Well, he approved it the last time too. The last 3 times he approved the book. Lectures, all these things. They're messing with these things. That's all they do at the end base. They just mess with this stuff. They try to repackage it. Like, I don't know what's happening. None of these books are working. Let's put a new cover. That's it. It's the cover. Oh no, it's the foil embossing. It's the foil on the spine. It wasn't lined up. The little Scientology symbol was high on this one and low on this one. We're going to make them the same. When they sit on the bookshelf, they're all going to look like the same people made it. These people, it's telling you, it's all movie magic. The whole place, even the lectures. A lot of people don't know this. When L. Ron Hubbard gave this dude from the 50s, this dude had a tape recorder everywhere he went. Didn't matter. He recorded everything. He was giving a seminar to 7 people. He recorded the goddamn thing. He recorded thousands and thousands and thousands of lectures. And just like those advices, this dude had advices, hundreds, on how to edit the tapes, how to mix the tapes, how to produce the tapes, how to quality control the tapes. It just went on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And those tapes are mixed and edited. I mean, I'd say 95% of those lectures are so mixed that if you played the original and played the final, you'd be like, that's not the same. There's no way it's the same.
Really?
Oh yeah. His voice is full and boomy and full of bass, and yeah. When he's doing the lecture, he literally sounds like this. That's how he sounds. And that's the other thing. These are a lot of things that are kind of like messing with your head. Like, okay, this L. Ron Hubbard guy, he was a master photographer. He was a master mariner. He was a master writer. He was a master mixer. He was a master recordist. How the fuck did he record the 3,000 of the shittiest recordings that ever saw the light of day? He didn't just record like 20 crappy tapes. This dude recorded thousands of the shittiest recordings that took decades to mix and edit and record and like re-record and I mean, they have the mixing facilities and the restoration facilities. They're amazing at Gold because the dude recorded on 20 different kinds of formats and media, but also on that as many more tape recorders. And he recorded on, this dude's been making recordings so long, he recorded on wax discs. Right. Okay? This dude's been recording, he recorded on wax, okay? He's been making recordings for a long time. You would think in 50 or how many ever years of doing recordings, he would have figured out how to do it, but he never did. So they had to mix these things. Okay, now here's another crazy thing. Remember I told you when he was doing the lecture to 7 people, he recorded that fucker? Okay, well, when you listen to that lecture today in Scientology, there's a hall of 400 people clapping at the head of that tape.
Right, that's right. At the beginning of every lecture, huge applause for Hubbard.
Yeah. Thunderous applause.
Yeah.
Like you were at the Shrine Auditorium last week with 2,000 people in there clapping.
Yeah.
No, there was 7 people there. And guess what? They didn't clap when he walked in. They didn't even know who the fuck he was. He said he was going to do a lecture. What the hell? I got nothing to do with Saturday. I'll go listen to some old fuddy-duddy talk. And then he talked. And then when it was over, it was over. And even during that thing, some of those people heckled the shit out of this dude. Like,
really?
Are you kidding? Oh, yeah. There's so much shit edited out of those tapes. Okay, we're talking about racial slurs. When he's dropping N-words in lectures, you don't hear those.
That's right. Never once.
They cut those out. When he's talking about, he's using Asians' racial slurs, and he's talking smack about somebody, or even if he's just talking about a Scientologist that happens to be there at one of the lectures. Oh, blah, blah, blah is the best auditor in the whole world. Well, blah, blah, blah gets declared an SP a few years later. So blah, blah, blah ain't mentioned in there no more. Guess who got edited out the most of any of the lectures?
Mary Sue?
Mary Sue Hubbard.
Yep.
He talked all kinds of smack about her afterwards, but while he was doing the lectures, oh, Mary Sue did this and Mary Sue did that. And if it weren't for Mary Sue, I don't know what we'd be doing. But no, you listen to the lectures now? There is not one mention of that girl, Mary Sue.
That's right.
And so not only do you have applause being added at the beginning and at the end, you have laughter being added when he tells a joke.
Oh, right.
You have heckling taken out, coughs. If he coughed, this dude's like, he's the Messiah. He don't cough. You take those out.
Right.
Sneezes. Can't have a sneeze. He ain't got no cold. He's cleared. He hasn't had a cold since 1952. No, none of that. They take all that out. So, and then they mix it. So instead of sounding like this, it sounds like this guy that, thank you for listening. You know, he's got this real deep booming voice. No, he doesn't sound like that at all. He doesn't sound like that in any of the lectures.
No shit.
I guarantee you, if you guys heard, and this is the craziest part, this is not a secret. Maybe taking out some of the content is, but they had events at the Free Ones where they played the before tape and then the after tape to show how hot shit we were at Gold, how we were restoring. They call it restoration.
That's right.
No, it's enhancing. It's not we're not restoring it. We're enhancing it. We're not making it what it was. We're making it what we want it to be.
Right.
And guess what? Dave does that too. Guess who talks like this? Dave does. But when he goes to the event, they make it full and booming. They use the same technology that Hubbard devised for the lectures. They use that to make David Miscavige sound more bass and more full and take out the mid-range and the high frequencies and to add in that bass and that fullness and give it some reverb and even make the room sound a little bit bigger than it is.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, I'm telling you, it's movie magic, man. Everything boils down to dressing up the pig, putting the lipstick on it, you know, putting a nice outfit on it, making it look a little, let's shoot it from this angle because it doesn't, if you shoot it sideways, it's a big fat pig, but if we shoot it straight on, it doesn't look so fat. It doesn't look like a pig anymore, you know?
Yep.
And that's, I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever heard any of those lectures the way they used to be, but they really, most of them, there's crackle, it's like, it sounds like he put the recorder, the mic in the bathroom and then went out on the stage and recorded. I mean, that's how bad it was. And I don't know if there's any events online where they have these before and afters that they've showed, but it's amazing what they can do to make it sound the way it does. And
well,
it took decades.
I have to comment here because when I was still a staff member in Santa Barbara, somebody told me about a reel-to-reel lecture. Because when I first got in Scientology, they were still doing the reel-to-reels. And this guy who'd been around for a long time told me about this lecture that was not widely available. It still hasn't been made available. Only the transcript of it has. And it's called The Role of Earth. And it's all about a matrix shit and implants and bodies in pawn. And I mean, it's wild sci-fi shit.
Is that the one where it talks about the World Bank and Smersh and all this other stuff?
No, it's more sci-fi stuff. It's more sci-fi stuff, if I remember it right. He might get into that in the lecture, actually, but I'm not 100% sure. But the funny thing to me from what you just said is the guy told me, he said, man, it sounds like L. Ron Hubbard's giving a lecture out of a bathroom, dude. It's really hard to hear, but it's some of the most amazing stuff ever. Well, the transcript wasn't available for years, but I called Bridge and I was like, hey, this is when I'm still kind of a young Scientologist, young guy. I'm a little bit of a smart ass. And I go, I'm looking for this lecture called The Role of Earth. Has this ever been made? It kind of sounds like Hubbard's giving it out of a bathroom, but I heard it's really good. And they were very much not amused by me saying that, you know, very much not amused, you know.
Yeah, well, anyway. That's one of the reasons why the reel-to-reels were banned. Because the reel-to-reels, so Hubbard would do a lecture and it would be recorded on a reel-to-reel. And then at St. Hill, they'd be like, well, we got 20 people on course and they all got to listen to this lecture. So we're going to make like 10 copies of it. And then somebody in Ohio says, well, we need that lecture. So they send one of those off to Ohio, says, well, you guys got to make a few copies of it and send us back. So people, it was just making copies. It's just reel-to-reels floating around everywhere.
Yep.
And it was the copy of a copy of a copy of a copy that sounded like shit when L. Ron Hubbard recorded it. So they had to just say, no more of that. You can only have cassettes. And then cassettes, a similar thing kind of happened with cassettes here and there. They kind of messed around a bit with them. And the ones that were made by Gold at first were total crap. But in the end, when I was there at the property in the early 90s, we were cranking out 50,000 cassettes a week. And those cassettes cost $1 each. Just the tape was $1.
Wow.
It was TDK metal tape. It was the highest quality tape that you could possibly buy. And one lecture cost $1. Well, they were selling them for $75 each, but we were selling them for $1. And when they came out on CD, the price went up. And that dollar tape went down to about 2.5 cents to produce a lecture. They're still selling them. I think they're selling them right now for $70 a cassette or a CD. But yeah, the cassettes were for a long time. Not only could you only listen to the cassettes, you had to listen to them. If you were in a Scientology organization, you couldn't just put them in a tape recorder. You had to put them in. You had to put them. I remember I made hundreds of these standard tech cassette deck.
Yes, with the clear sound.
That's right, a Nakamichi, a standard tech cassette deck, Nakamichi CR1A.
Yes.
And those, I silk screen those little doors, those little clear sound logos onto that little door in there. And we had to modify them so they worked with a foot pedal.
Yep. So
you can fast forward and rewind. And not only that, you couldn't just have regular headphones. Because if you had regular headphones, it would erase the tape because these headphones have magnets in them. So if you put them by the tape, they'd erase the tape. So we had to have these special Stax headphones that we'd make. A Stax headphone with a driver and a cassette deck, those cost $1,000 for the orgs to buy.
Yes.
$1,000 each. For that setup, that was about $1,000.
Yes.
And Gold, I'm going to say Gold paid a few hundred for that setup. That was the markup. And so if you had a new ideal org being set up, you'd need 30, 40 of these things. Because you'd have to have some in the public course rooms, you have to have some in the tech course rooms. They all had to be those.
That's right. That's right.
Even after that, when there was no more cassettes and they were still doing CDs, they still had all this stupid stuff. You still had to have a Nakamichi CD player. You still had to have this special headphone driver. You know that headphone driver, by the way. So there used to be this company, Bose.
Yes.
And they used to have this thing. If you wanted an airplane, you could plug in this little box. You plug the output of your CD player into this box, and then you plug your headphones into the box, and it would make all the noise on the airplane disappear.
Mm-hmm.
Golden Era tried to get Bose to let us use that. And Bose said, no way, we ain't giving it to you guys. Forget that. So they just 100% ripped it off. They just opened up that Bose box and made a box just like it. And that's the CD listening system.
Oh.
Had this little box in it. It had a Golden Era sticker on it. It was that Bose box remade by us. They took the same exact circuit board that was in that Bose box, and they just made another one.
And they called it Clear Sound.
Yeah, well, it's the same concept of clear sound. You raise whatever frequencies are prominent in the recording that you want to get rid of, you put another frequency over it that is the minus of those frequencies.
Okay.
It cancels it out. There's a whole bunch of tech to it. It's very similar to Dolby, and it's basically sort of a noise reduction technology is what clear sound is. Clear sound also is using the original source recorder to then play back the material. So if you recorded it on an Ampex 5270, then when you go to restore it, you play it back on that same tape recorder and you tune that recorder to match that tape. And then when you play it back, it's going to play it back as good as it could possibly be played back because that was the type of machine it was recorded on and so on. There's a whole bunch of other stuff to it. But David Miscavige actually owns, I think, is a co-partner on the patent for ClearSound. And some microphones as well. If you look it up in the patent records, David Miscavige has a patent for a little microphone cage that we used to use on the shoot crew, which is basically just like a little catcher's mask.
Yeah.
It's a catcher's mask for a microphone. So any clothes rustle or anything happens is going on the cage, and the microphone is inside this little isolation cage, so it can't be messed with. It's like, who gives a don't put the microphone so the clothes don't rub on you, Dobo.
Yeah,
anyway,
right. But Wow. Okay. Well, I really appreciate the smoke and mirrors aspect, because I think people need to know that. And we never talk about this stuff. What about this? Let me ask you about a whole different thing. Because of your experience on Gold Base and in proximity to Miscavige, and the fact that you also, because of the work you were doing, you were sending financial requests, purchase orders up and down all the time. So here's this weird thing in Scientology. They won't pay the goddamn staff a living wage. They won't even pay them, period. They're total spendthrifts when it comes to crew welfare. There's all these places where, when I went out on a project or a mission, I was given $20 a day to eat, and I had to account for every single penny. So there's all these places where they're just Scrooge-like and they're penny pinching. And then you turn around and there is SUMP. There's Scientology Media Productions, a multi-million-dollar facility that did not need to be built at all, because everything they're doing could be done at Gold.
Yeah.
What the hell? What is up with that? What do you think about that? How does he decide? Yeah, what's up with that?
That's a David Miscavige thing. If Chris wants to build something, we don't have any money. If David Miscavige wants to build something, we have an unlimited budget. And that's really, at the end of the day, I mean, in my book, that's the one time that I got beat up by David Miscavige, was over money. I was the producer, Golden Era Productions, and I was responsible for making all these lectures and books that were going to be released, that years later, they came out, years after I left, they came out as the Basics, which were all these books and all these lectures on CDs. And Dave Miscavige dubbed it the Basics. Well, we've been working on the Basics for a decade at the base. And they were supposed to be released in about a certain amount of time. And with the machines and the production facilities we had there at the base, we weren't going to make the deadline that he had given. He said we had like a year or two where they all had to be produced. I said, in order to be able to produce that amount of stuff, we need to buy like $2.5 million worth of equipment. I was taken off post because I wanted to spend $2.5 million.
Of course.
It was like, all you guys, you just want toys, you just want to spend money, screw you, you're out of here. Okay, well, I ended up actually getting made the person directly in charge of the production, the director of AV manufacturing. So instead of being over all production, I was just over the production that I screwed up not figuring out how we were going to get made. And then Dave Miscavige took it upon himself, and with the CST guys, this guy named Russ Bellin, who was the commanding officer of CST, which is the Church of Spiritual Technology. They're the ones that put all L. Ron Hubbard's materials on metal plates and gold records and seal them in hermetically sealed titanium capsules and put them into an underground vault in the side of a mountain. Okay, these guys are awesome at spending money. They're spending millions and millions of dollars. So Dave Miscavige says, okay, screw you, Marc Headley. You want to spend $2.5 million. I'm going to go get Russ. We're going to figure out how to do this. So he comes back with this plan. He doesn't want to spend $2 million. He wants to spend $20 million.
Oh my God.
Yeah. They put a freaking elevator in the building that we had that didn't have an elevator the whole time there.
Of course they did.
Added an elevator.
Right.
Okay. Well, it was like, you can't put a print shop on the second floor and then put all the finishing on the first floor. There's no elevator. Dave Miscavige is like, there will be when I'm done. I'm going to blow an elevator in this bitch. Okay. Well, so I get taken off post for $2.5 million. He spends 20. We're walking through and he's like, oh, you're going to get it done now, aren't you? And of course, I couldn't resist. I said, well, yeah, you spent $20 million. We could do whatever the hell you want. We could produce them by next week at this point. Anyway, he did a little punching bag on my face there for that one. And then And then I was going to punch it back, and then I got carried out of the building, and that's the rest of the story's in the book. But either way, yeah, he didn't want to spend 2.5 when it was my idea.
Right.
But when it's his idea, 20, let's spend 25 million. Who knows? And guess what? This is the best part of all. That shit didn't come out until like 5 years after I blew.
Exactly.
Like, I'm pretty sure it came out like in, I want to say it came out in 2009, maybe even 2010, maybe even later. I don't know when they finally released it. But even with all that, they still didn't get it done. We produced the e-meters that came out. Those were built and sitting on the shelf when I left.
In 2005.
This new Mark 8 Ultra e-meter, blah, blah, blah. It was so old that they wanted to update it so you could plug it into a computer. And it had a DB9 port on the back, like the really old style connector that you would use like for your modem, or you would use for like a mouse, like, or a printer, or like it was called, I think it's called RS-232. It's a really old type of computer connection. Those e-meters sat there so long, they had to open up every single e-meter, take that thing out, and put an Ethernet port in there. That's how old it was. And even the Ethernet they should have put in there. They should have just put USB. But regardless, these people aren't the smartest. They're not the smartest tools in the shed. But either way, those e-meters were sitting on the shelf when I left, and they didn't even release them until years and years and years and years later. And they were like, these are modern technology. No, they're not. Those things are from 8 years ago, man. Those things are so old. You guys had to take parts out of them that we didn't have on the, like, literally, they had parts on them that were so old that computers were made and built that stopped using those connectors for long enough that no computers had those connectors on them by the time they released them. Or not that many, not enough that it would make them usable. But yeah, dude, that facility in Los Angeles is a carbon copy of What's It Gold. That Scientology Media Productions place. We had all that stuff at Gold years ago, but guess what? There's a bunch of SPs at Gold. David Miscavige is always paranoid of those people at the base saying they're trying to kill him, they're trying to poison him, they're out to get him, they're ruining Scientology, they're suppressive persons. These are the top executives in all of Scientology. He has declared them suppressive, and they still work there to this day, still. And they're probably still declared suppressives. So he didn't want, and the other problem, there was always the problem of the base. It's impossible to get anybody to come there. It's in the middle of nowhere, out in the middle of the desert. It's a 2-hour drive from Gold with no traffic. And when you're trying to get actors and actresses up there, and also that's where he lives, that's where L. Ron Hubbard's mansion is, they didn't think this through in the early days. Like, this is going to be the most top secret facility. We're going to use actors that are not Scientologists to come here. And how it's, anyway, so in the end, they bought that studio. They probably paid several million for the studio. Then they paid several million to upgrade it and do all this stuff. And guess what? What do they do there? Nobody knows. They're not making anything anyone gives a shit about. And they certainly aren't resulting in anybody getting to Scientology. There's even less people in Scientology than when they opened the goddamn thing, or whatever, a year or two ago. There's less people now that are in Scientology when they opened a few years ago. It's so, like, it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters what they do at this point, that there's no way for them to keep the genie in the bottle anymore. There's enough people leaving. And when you have somebody like Leah Remini leave, and she just starts telling all this shit that happened, there's no, so now basically everybody knows if they leave and they talk shit, they're not going to do anything. 20 years ago, you don't know what would happen if you talk smack about them after you left. They would, I mean, even when I wrote my book, they were doing some pretty hardcore stuff to us to try and get us to shut up, to my wife and I, like crazy stuff. And we just stuck it out. I mean, we're just like, it sucks, but, and now we don't hear from them at all. We don't hear anything from them. They used to have, when we were in Burbank, there was people following us to the supermarket.
Right.
Like, we literally had PIs with us at the supermarket, taking the kids to school, going to job sites, all these things. I had people following me from houses, from job to job, private investigators, running red lights, chasing me down the highway, chasing me through the surface streets, trying to stay behind me so that I wouldn't lose them, so they know where my next job was, so that they can then harass that person at a later date.
Wow.
So, but now, I think the only person they're messing with now is Leah, if they're even messing with her at all. I mean, when she came here to Denver, there were PIs following her when she was here.
Yep.
So, I don't know.
Wow.
But,
when did the pressure let off on you guys? Do you remember?
I'd say it was in the last 5 years or so.
Yeah.
I mean, they were taking pictures outside our house here in Colorado when we first got here in 2011-ish. But I'd say a few years after that. And here they enforce the laws. In California, when you follow somebody around like that, that's what the paparazzi do. So they don't really come down on you. You do that here in Colorado, that's called stalking. If this dude in this car follows me today, and then I tell the police, and then tomorrow that same dude's following me today, that's harassment. They just arrest him and say, hey, this guy's got a family. You can't be following people and their kids around. So they don't they just can't really get it. And I don't know if there's any other states that are like that, but I mean, there's police here that have read my book. So they know what's up here. There's no messing around.
And also the Denver PD is not the LAPD. And let's just be blunt. The LAPD is definitely bought off. I mean, not with money. I'm not trying to imply that an individual police officers or the captain is bribed. I'm not going to make that accusation because I can't back that up.
I'll make that accusation. That Lee Baca dude, they had that dude that dude was on the take the whole time.
Okay.
That dude.
Okay.
And guess what? We found out he's a total criminal.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I know, I'm just saying that.
He was Scientology's poster boy for the last 15 years. He was at their Christmas parades. If they opened a new organization, he was standing there. He was shaking it up with David Miscavige. He was always fronting for them. Lee Baca, are you kidding me? That dude he's in more Scientology promotional videos than some of the Scientology executives.
That's true. That is very true.
Anyway,
but they definitely have influence. Yeah, they definitely got influence with the LAPD. And that's, I think. Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons, a lot of people don't know this, when we were putting on these events and when we were holding one of these org openings, or in Los Angeles, they had this, like in the summer, they'd have a week of events.
Yep.
And they just close off L. Ron Hubbard Way. Well, when you close off L. Ron Hubbard Way, you got to put 2 or 3 cops on one end of the street and 2 or 3 cops on the other end of the street. And then you have another 5 cops that are just kind of hanging out for event security. Those guys are making $75 an hour to show up in uniform and on their motorcycle. Okay? You do 10 of those a year for Scientology. When you do a shrine event, they hire all those same cops. When you do one of these L. Ron Hubbard Way events, you get all those same cops. Some of these cops have boats and jet skis and motorhomes, all paid for by Scientology, because you sit there all day hanging out with Scientology, you're making $1,000 that day.
Right, right.
And they're feeding you, they're taking care of you. And guess what? Just happens that when the police get called, who shows up?
Those guys.
Dr. Weekend Security guy. Now he's the guy who's showing up to complain about the protester. So when the Scientology is complaining about the protesters, who do you think he's not biased when he shows up? When Kirsten Catano, who's been shoving ham sandwiches down his mullet for the past 10 years and paying him, and put his kids went to Hawaii last summer and all this nonsense. Yeah, whatever Kirsten wants, he's going to do for Kirsten. Ken Moxon, he's there. Ken Moxon, we want to show Ken Moxon all around the block to point out all the protesters that he doesn't like so they can hassle him. That's what's happening. Telling you. Those cops are making insane amounts of money off Scientology. And there's no way around that. And then you have so many cops, their sergeant or their chief or whatever, he knows that. He can't say, we're going to clamp down on the Scientology. It's like, dude, that's my vacation money, dude. Come on. Cut him some slack.
Right.
I've heard other stories that they're not my stories to tell, but the LAPD and the LA Sheriff's Department, they're biased as hell, dude. They're biased as just all the money, just based on the money alone.
Do you think from everything you do know, said and not said, that that's influencing Danny Masterson's prosecution or investigation?
I would say that's definitely a factor.
Okay.
Tell me, dude, there's politics, there's money, even voting. You got all those Scientologists in that one area. Whoever they vote for, that's who's winning.
Right.
Some of these races in LA, it's down to tens of people, win or lose. And they have hundreds, if not thousands. So if they say vote for Joe Schmo, Joe Schmo's going to win. If Joe Schmo goes over there and shakes some hands and says, I hate psychiatry, I love L. Ron Hubbard, poof, he's on the list, man. He's going to get – when we were at the base, we got a list of all the candidates, and the voting station, the polling booth was at the base.
Yeah,
so
at the LA org.
We didn't even have to walk out. We didn't even have to walk outside the gates at the base. We could just walk up to Gold Reception, and there was a voting booth there, and we got given a list, and they're very crafty about how they do this. They just say, oh, Jane Smith, she loves psychiatry. She's for the drugging of children. Okay, good. Well, we know we're not voting for Jane Smith. Okay, Billy Bob, he loves L. Ron Hubbard. He loves The Way to Happiness. Okay, good. I get it. Okay, we're voting for Billy Bob. And that's how the list was. It was just, these are the guys that are pro. These are the guys that are con. Okay, we're good to go. And and that's how we knew who to vote for. No one at the Gold Base is watching the news. We don't know what Billy Bob's been up to. We don't know that he was sleeping with his secretary 2 weeks ago, or he's got some big scandal with some nonprofit. We don't know any of that. We just know he likes L. Ron Hubbard. He likes The Way to Happiness. That's it. And there, if you voted at the base when it was almost 1,000 people, oh, that dude's winning for sure. Whoever gets town council or governor, whatever the race was for those little towns, when we voted, that person got elected.
Yep. It was the same drill in Los Angeles. The voting place was at the LA org. We just had to walk down the block, and we got a whole briefing by OSA the night before with the handout, just like you guys. Here's the guys we like. We're not telling you how to vote, but we're telling you how to vote.
Which, by the way, that's totally illegal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because they're a nonprofit. They're not supposed to be interfering with elections and getting favors from the government and all this stuff. Super illegal. Super no. They do it. They don't care. They don't even hide it. They're just like, yeah, we're doing it.
Exactly. All right, let's God, we've covered a lot of territory here. I just want to hit one more thing and then we'll wrap up, I think. I got to ask you, because you were at the base and you were personally audited by Tom Cruise. So you had more than a little bit of experience with the man. What is his deal? Is he fanatical or what?
Yeah, when he first was in the 90s, that's when he was auditing me. And that was when he was first doing Scientology training and counseling and stuff like that. It was the Tom Cruise from Top Gun. The Tom Cruise at that time, I think he was shooting Days of Thunder.
Yeah.
He came to the property right after shooting Days of Thunder because he brought Nicole Kidman with him when he was there at the property in the early 90s. 1992, I think it was. I don't know, 1990, 1991, somewhere in there. And he was just a regular dude. He was still Tom Cruise. So it was still kind of like, holy shit, it's Tom Cruise. When I left in 2005, he was a carbon copy clone of David Miscavige. I mean,
right.
when he got divorced, towards the late 90s, I think Nicole was not into Scientology. And she was kind of, I think they thought she was kind of pulling him out. And I'd say by the late 90s, he wasn't coming to the base. He wasn't doing anything. When him and Nicole got divorced, Scientology used that and they just got their claws into him. And he did a 180 so hardcore. I think it was in 2001, I want to say, 2001. He was so hardcore that Dave Miscavige was telling us stories about how hardcore of a Scientologist Tom was.
Wow.
I mean, he's telling the base executives, Tom Cruise is more dedicated than you guys are. And he told us, there was one story he told us. He said, he said this is Dave Miscavige telling the story. He said, I didn't tell Tom to do this, but this is what Tom did. Tom gathered up all these Scientology celebrities, Jenna Elfman and Bodie Elfman, the Mastersons, Erica Christensen, Ann Archer, Terry Draft. He gathered all these guys up and he took them to CCHR, which is their Scientology's anti-psychiatry front group that's on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. And they have a Museum of Death exhibit there. It's really right up Scientology's alley there.
Exactly.
And he made them all go through the museum, and then he had a meeting with them. And this is Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise told them that none of them were doing anything in Scientology that mattered. They weren't promoting Scientology. They weren't disseminating. They were useless as far as getting the word out about Scientology. And that if they didn't start doing something, he was going to make sure that they never worked in Hollywood again.
Jesus.
And now this is David Miscavige telling us that he told them to do this. And David Miscavige is like, I didn't tell him to do that. I didn't give him authority. I didn't give him okay. I didn't tell him to do it. Nothing. I didn't even give him the idea. Nothing. He said, Tom on his own did this and beat the shit out of these guys, so to speak, and said, hey, get something going or I'm going to make it so you don't work again. Like I have that power to make you not work again. And they did. Jenna Elfman, she opened a mission that year. The Mastersons, all of a sudden, they started talking about Scientology. Erica Christensen now is talking about, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they're all just like, oh, yeah, Scientology's awesome. That's why. They wouldn't have done shit. And to tell you the truth, that is the way most of those celebrities are. They don't give a shit about Scientology. They're not on course. They're not doing shit. They don't give a fuck about Scientology. Like Danny Masterson, when I first got out, one of my friends was at a party the same night as an event, and Danny Masterson was at some club. And we were like, oh, I thought you were supposed to be at the CCNT gala. He's like, oh, screw that noise. I went there. They took my picture. I got the hell out of there. As far as they know, I was there. That was Danny Masterson. So, I mean, now since then, he talks a bunch of, he says, oh, Scientology's awesome. Now they're trying to keep him out of trouble, whatever. But yeah, that was Tom Cruise in 2004 to the early 2000s. By the time I left in 2004, he was hardcore, like more hardcore than when Dave was telling us that story. Like Dave was even saying that he was telling Tom about how Dave was beating the shit out of everybody and that Tom offered to come up there and beat the shit out of them as well if he needed it.
Holy shit. That does not surprise me, given the nature of what Tom Cruise has been up to in his personal life with his niece kicking her out of the family basically for 2 years.
Oh, yeah, no.
Kissed a guy at his house.
He doesn't put up with any nonsense. He is like, I mean, I think it was Leah. Leah, I think in her book, she tells a story about somebody gave him a coffee cup with a chip in it and he lost his shit. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of crazy. But you know what? That's exactly like David Miscavige. So that's why I say, like, in the end, it was almost like those two were, you could put a mask of the either on the other, and they could, yeah.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't take a lot. You yell, smack people around, yell and scream, spend lots of money on shit you like. They both do that, probably no problem.
Jesus, man. Wow.
But yeah, it was yeah. So now that's why a lot of people, they say, oh, well, how much do the celebrities know? You know, like John Travolta, I doubt that dude knows shit that goes on.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Tom Cruise, he knows everything that goes on. David Miscavige and him, like, I can just imagine them having like a daily phone call.
Wow.
Like, that's how it was when I was at the property. It was like, I just got off the phone with Tom, and he said if I needed it, he'd come up here and smack you guys around for me. Like how, I didn't even know, like, to me, that's gotta be the weirdest phone call. Like, hey, Tom, what's up? Yeah, I just been beating the shit out of these guys. Yeah, they're still not pulling finger. You know, like, I don't know what to do. You want me to come up there and smack them around for you? I don't know if I need that yet, you know, but I'll let you know. Like, really? Are you kidding me? Like, these two dudes are nuts. And they literally think, and Dave explained this, and even Tom explained this. He's like, this is L. Ron Hubbard, this is COB Dave Miscavige, and this is me. Like, really? Like, are you kidding me? Like, they think they're higher beings.
Yeah.
Like, if L. Ron Hubbard was Source, and he's here, and David Miscavige is here, and Tom Cruise is here, like, really? You think, wow, dude. Like,
yeah.
So, yeah. And David Miscavige said on many times, he said if he could, Tom Cruise would be Inspector General RTC, which is the only post second to COB. Like, he's saying, if I could, and here we are, you know, I've been there 15 years, you know, since I'm 16 years old. Some dudes have been here their whole lives. Like, they don't know anything else. The most dedicated, you know, only slept 5 or 6 hours for the last 20 years. You know, work on Christmas, holiday, birthday, don't see my family, you know, all this stuff. And you said, Dave Miscavige tells you Tom Cruise is the most dedicated Scientologist. Dude wasn't even in Scientology 10 years ago. Now he's the most dedicated Scientologist. It's pretty hardcore.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, when Miscavige gave him that Freedom Medal of Valor and said that on stage to all Scientologists in the world, I was in the audience as a Sea Org member going, what the fuck? I mean, I just could not even. I'm telling you,
that's the way everybody reacted. They're like, are you kidding me? Tom Cruise is the most dedicated Scientologist in the world? And that's another thing I go to in detail in the book is that video, the one where he's in the black turtleneck and he's like, KFW. You know, that video, David Miscavige spent a week, day and night, making that video. Like, some people think like that video is like cut and edited and it's not really what no, that video is exactly what David Miscavige made. And David Miscavige even said when he made it, this will go down in history as one of the most important videos in Scientology. Which is like, dude wasn't wrong. Dude wasn't wrong.
He was not.
Because that's basically the video that formed Anonymous. That's the video that led to all the in real life protests. That's the video that basically the internet said, no more. We're done with you, Scientology. Because Scientology tried to take the video down when somebody had posted it. And the internet was like, I don't think so. We got it. It's ours now. You have no say in the matter.
That's
right. Yeah. And so and you know what? That video might have been the turning point for everything. It was the catalyst. That one video was the catalyst that kind of gave cover for us members that were leaving at the time. All that stuff happening with Anonymous and the protests and all these TV and the media, it kind of gave cover for people that were speaking out because they couldn't come after us. They had like 10,000, over 9,000 anonymous people that were going crazy on them. Not, what am I doing? You know, I wrote a book. Whoop-de-doo.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's
David
a really...
Miscavige was right. That was one of the most important videos in their history.
That is a really good point. I'll actually revise how I talk about that time period, because I think that's absolutely right. I think that video was exactly the catalyst for that.
It might not have been the kingpin or anything, but you know, it was a part of the puzzle that kind of, you know, it was like, how does Scientology get away with harassing all these people? And all these people who have nothing to do with Scientology are now protesting Scientology. So, and they have no identity. We don't know anything about them. We can't throw shade on these guys. They got a funky, weird movie mask on from Guy Fawkes. That's all we know.
That's
and
right.
They like to eat. Yeah, they like cake, and they like dancing, and all sorts of craziness. And they don't like us. That's all we know. So it was. I remember being like going to protests and being part of that at the time, and it was actually very empowering. That it's not just little old me now. There's at least 10,000 people who sort of agree, or at least agree that they're doing something bad over there in Scientology land, as opposed to, no, this guy's a criminal. We don't know what he's talking about. Everything he says is a lie. And then you go, well, we got some other stories. And then they also started to dig up a lot of information on the internet that wasn't so readily available, or at least people didn't know where to find it. And that made a big difference.
Yeah, huge difference. Huge. All right, one more question, then we'll wrap it up here.
Okay.
So
the longest video you've ever done.
So my experience with L. Ron Hubbard was as a public person, as a staff member, and then as a mid-level Sea Org member. I was never at the int base. You saw things I never saw that L. Ron Hubbard wrote, the advices and a lot of those things, that stupid fucking card system. You know, I never imagined L. Ron Hubbard would conceive of something like that. So given your experience with this, and you're up close and personal with David Miscavige, what do you think L. Ron Hubbard would have to say about what David Miscavige has done and how he runs things?
Wow, that's a tough one. I think at the end of the day, I think when L. Ron Hubbard was there, he was crazy.
Yeah.
He was certifiably crazy. And he did crazy shit. At the same time, the dude was a genius, that he figured out a way to basically build this trap that people would build themselves and then pay these guys, give these guys insane amounts of money. The only thing David Miscavige did is he just re-upped it. So he's like, that's great, we got people building their own trap, and that's great, we're getting them to give us money to be able to do this trap building. But then Dave he took it a step further. He was just like, why don't we just have them give us money for nothing? Like, we can still do all this trap building stuff, but let's just cut to the chase and just get some million bucks here, $1 million there, $10 million just for nothing. We'll give them an award. We'll throw a plaque at them, print their name in some magazine. I'll take a picture with them, but they don't even have to do the Scientology stuff. Just give us the money. So in one way, I think Hubbard would just be like, hats off, you know? And that's the other crazy thing, is because Dave Miscavige doesn't give a shit about the policies in Scientology. He didn't give a shit about what Hubbard says. Not at all. When you're at the base, it's like, who gives a shit? We're rewriting, re-editing, chopping up, editing his lectures, redoing the books. He screwed up all these things. If L. Ron Hubbard knew that, he might get a little pissy with him. And there's a bunch of people at the base, I really do think, because L. Ron Hubbard said, do this, do that, I'll be back, I'm gonna get my stuff. I mean, at the end base, they put his clothes out every day.
Wow. I did not know that.
In his mansion, his clothes are on the bed for today. Like right now, today, there is an outfit sitting on the bed for him to put on.
Good God.
And there's a towel on the bathtub in case he comes to run a bath. And they're changing all the furniture every season in the house. And they're cleaning it. There's not a dust moat in that entire building because L. Ron Hubbard was a total dust freak. He couldn't have any dust anywhere. So there's a bunch of people at that base, at that property, these high executives that David Miscavige has been beating on. They're like, when Hubbard comes back, we're going to tell him what you've been up to. Like they're waiting for Hubbard to come back so they can tell on Davy Boy. And Davy Boy knows that. So I think he plays into that. Like, I think he's like, hey, we got to get LRH's mansion built because when he comes back, he's got to have, but even that, okay, whatever. The dude was like 76 or he was old. He was big. Yeah. He was a big fucker. He was like 6 foot tall. He was big. He was fat. He was a big dude. You think those fatty old dude clothes are going to fit this young dude who comes back 21 years later? Like, dudes, come on. Think for a second.
Right.
He's going to come back in a new body? With all those OT superpowers, he's going to pick up some old fuddy-duddy body? No, man. He's going to come back as a hot dude. Come on, like a firefighter, greasy mechanic or something. Come on. Right. Like a bodybuilder. He's not going to come back as some old fat dude.
Right.
Anyway. But so to answer your question, I think LRH might be a little snippy that Dave's been messing with his materials. But I think overall, he'd give him a pat on the back for sucking down, when L. Ron Hubbard left, they probably had a $1 billion tax bill. When L. Ron Hubbard left.
That's true.
Now they got $3 billion in assets and cash. They might have way less people, but who gives a shit? That's why I think at the end of the day, it's not about the people. They just want the money.
Right.
So at the end of the day, they got more money. Who gives a shit? We got less people. We got more rich folks that want to give us more money. So, what the hell? But it's getting smaller. It's getting smaller. And it's going to get a lot harder for those rich people to be so out of touch. And even as much as they stroke their egos, it's going to be hard for some of these dudes to be like, really? I don't know. You guys are, it's going to get to the point where something's going to get exposed. Something's going to come out on the 3rd season of Aftermath, or something's going to happen, and people are they're going to get to the point where they're never working in this town again. And that's what we need, something to come out where people finally go like, oh shit, these guys are crazy. Like, it's not just this guy here and that. No, they're doing crazy shit everywhere. And that is that at the end of the day, that's what people should know, is that there's one set of policies that L. Ron Hubbard wrote, and they crazy all the way through and through. There's not like a version for Germany that's not crazy, or a version for New York that's less crazy. No, it's through and through, consistent crazy all the way, everywhere it is. And no matter where you go, there's space aliens inhabiting people's bodies in Scientology. So as long as they have little space aliens that they think are responsible for the things that people do, then you got to maybe not give them so much money. Maybe not give them any money.
Right.
That's my take.
Fair enough, man. Awesome. Thank you for taking all this time. Like I said, I've been wanting to get you on for a long time because I knew it was going to be awesome like this. So
awesome.
Yeah. So thanks.
Go get my book. Yes. Amazon, blownforgood.com, or Kindle, or audiobook any day now. Amazon, as soon as they approve it, it'll be there. I do the narration. So I try to live up to what I wrote. It was a long time ago. I was young. I was a young man then, but I try to bring it back to life.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks, man. And folks,
awesome. Thanks for having me, man.
You bet. Folks, leave any comments, good, bad, sideways, in the comments section here on YouTube. or at mncriticalthinking.com. Thanks for coming around and watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.